Welcome to Loot, Lore, and Lights, a place where shadows linger, where forgotten stories stir, and where the past refuses to rest quietly. Tonight, we don't walk alone. We're joined by those who hunt the unseen, ghost hunters who have crossed the thresholds of abandoned mansions, wandered through graveyards where silence feels alive, and stood in rooms where the air grows colder with every breath. They've returned with stories etched in fear and fascination, tales of voices caught on recorders where no one else was there, of figures glimpsed at the edge of a flashlight's beam, and of presences that just cannot be explained away. Before we follow them into the dark, prepare yourself. Dim the lights, let the shadows thicken around you, and then light a protective candle, just in case. Its flicker is fragile, but it may be the only thing standing between us and whatever listens from beyond. This is Loot, Lore, and Lights. Hello and welcome back, everybody. My name is Adam. Today I have a full room with me. Let's just start off right off the top. My first guest here tonight is the creator and the host of the Full Moon Empty Road podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
He didn't tell you, but his name's Jeremy. And
yeah.
I also have, from our old ghost hunting days, someone that is no stranger to being named on this podcast, and he was our occult specialist.
Good evening, good morning. My name's David. Glad to be here with you.
Great to have you, David. And last but not least, someone who is no stranger to this podcast, someone who joins me all the time.
Girl, don't go in that door. You know better than that. Girl. I thought I was going to get
Welcome
popcorn.
back, Gerald. You know what? And since I'll just start it off at the top that we used to have our own little ghost hunting crew. We were called Spirits. Sometimes I even see our Facebook page still gets some random likes out there, even though we haven't done anything in probably close to 15 years at this point. But right off the top, what I want to ask each of you, and I guess we can just go in the order that I introduced you guys. We can start at the top. Jeremy, do you believe in ghosts?
I do, actually. I definitely believe there's something after life ends, and I do think there are people that stick around,
All right. What about you, Davo?
To say that going by every standard definition of a ghost, it being a dead person who has come back to manifest to the living in some form, way, or, yeah, they're real.
Gerald, what do you have for us?
All I know is I was at a graveyard one time and someone touched me and I could swear it was a ghost.
Now,
yes.
Was that something you couldn't see or your date that you took with you?
Well, if it was a date, I would definitely know.
That's spooky in itself. And I do think that whenever we were doing our ghost hunts, I always came across as a little bit more of the skeptic. And so I think that Ted Lasso said it best about believing in ghosts is I think it's more important that they believe in themselves.
Can't argue that.
Let's hop straight into, and I know that, Gerald, you kind of joined us a little bit later when it came to the ghost hunting, so this might be more geared towards Jeremy and Dave, but do you guys remember our first trial at a ghost hunt?
Are you talking at your old place, or are you talking at your friend's old parents' house, the official one that we tried to pop off with?
I think, to me, the first one that I remember at least was mine and Jeremy's, because we're brothers, our grandparents' old house.
Back when we were trying to get a grasp of what we wanted to do and how we would do it.
I actually do remember sitting in the living room with the K2 meters and I can't even think of the name of all the meters anymore, but all of that and doing EVP sessions and stuff.
The K2 and the EMF?
EMF, thank you.
Yeah, and that, just I guess for transparency's sake on that, we were doing that right after one of our grandparents had passed, and that was the second person that had recently passed in that home. And it was an interesting little tie into what, like Dave just said, what we were trying to do, trying to find our footing, at least, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. What is the most memorable place you could say out of the places that we've gone to ghost hunt?
For me, I would say Dead Children's Playground in Huntsville. That was honestly one of my favorites that we did, mainly because it was such a large place to investigate, but also because it was an actual trip. It wasn't a 10, 15, 20-minute drive. We literally had to jump on Highway 72 and cross state lines.
For most memorable, I would honestly have to say you've already brought it up for me, because I remember when we did that first, I don't know if you want to call it a trial run or testing the equipment and seeing what questions we wanted to throw out there. I remember standing in that living room and watching y'all have a conversation. I remember three distinct questions being asked, each question being answered, and both of you looking at each other like, try that again. No, that couldn't have worked. Try it again.
That is crazy that you bring that up too. Like I had almost forgotten about that, but you're right. Like I remember standing there with the K2 meters and we're getting responses to questions that we're asking.
And to me, that's the embodiment of what we were trying to do. We were trying to, delve into the unknown. What is that unseen side that stands on the other side of the curtain? Is there a way for us to connect with it? Is there a way for us to validate that it's even real, for us to even keep doing this? And for us to have this inception, or not inception, that's the wrong word, this inaugural, tryout of just to see if the group would work. Oh no, we had a conversation. Oh, that spoke.
I do know that Gerald came in a little bit later, but the one that I wonder if that's what you're going to bring up, Gerald, is the one where you said you felt touched when no one was around.
Oh, at the graveyard, what cemetery? It's not really a graveyard, y'all. It's a cemetery. Whitwell, was it? Was it Whitwell?
It's actually up in the mountains, and it was called, was it Witch's Grave? Tell us about that story, Gerald. How did that go?
Well, here I was, a young, out-of-school black kid, not homeless, but, Nazis. It was my first time, and I was a little skeptic about doing this. Kind of like, oh, I'm a good Christian boy. You don't need to be wandering through graveyards at night, and something might come back home with you if you're not hard enough. So I'm over here a little nervous, and the rest of the guys over here like, oh, wow, we done this about 4 or 5 times. Nothing follows us home. I like, yes, So it was amazing. It was an interesting experience. I think we stayed there about 2 hours. Going on 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, maybe. There were 8 of us at the time, I think. It was 8 of us was this 5?
We had pictures from that night.
Oh, okay, well, so it was 5 of us. 3 things followed me. Entities followed me back home. So that's why I'm counting 8. No, I do remember grabbing, I can't remember which machine y'all gave me. Was the K, it's one where I had to ask questions.
You had a K2 and a recorder.
Okay. And my live moment, we've probably been there about 45 minutes. And they're like, yeah, this is where the tree is where, they supposed to hung the witch at. You just stay over here and ask questions. And I'm over here asking silly questions like, so is this where they hung you? And trying to get back in the date periods. And all of a sudden, I feel something touch my shoulders. And I'm looking like, I think y'all about good 15 yards away from me.
More than that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just felt someone touch me. Y'all come here right now. I mean, right now. Yes. Yeah, I freaked out a little bit. And then I think y'all tried to give me some explanation, like, you sure it was that, wind, kind of little blow? No, it wasn't no wind. I know what a touch from the shoulder is. It touched my shoulder. And so we go back. We finished the night. Nothing else happened to me that I can acknowledge myself. And then we get back and we found some interesting footage on that one, I believe.
Yeah, I'll never forget listening to that recording and just the goosebumps that popped all over when you're standing there and you could just hear something whisper on the recorder, "Let this be seen."
And then I screamed when we heard this record. I'm like,
yeah.
Actually forgotten that we had audio on that trip. What I remember was we got to the graveyard, and where you pull in, it goes to the top of a hill where there's the tree and a gathering of a lot of the graves themselves. And my understanding, that was the tree. But I remember we spent a good hour at the top of the hill, and it just seemed like we were just out hanging out in the graveyard.
It was dead, pun intended.
Yeah, it was buried. But then I remember, I can't remember if it was me or Michael or one of y'all looked over, and there was another tree, about halfway down the hill, a little bit more toward the right. had to walk over Bear Hill to get to it, and we didn't want to, have people calling cops on us wandering around out in the open like that because, we knew the neighborhood and the county we were in. And we got down there, and I remember I thought I saw something in the tree. I remember Adam had an experience at the tree. I remember Gerald had an experience at the tree. Did you have one, Jeremy?
I don't think I did. I don't remember a whole lot of activity at the witch's grave.
I would just be over here hollering, look at all, whipping and stuff.
I mean, I do remember the let this be seen, and I do remember you freaking out. But beyond that, I don't remember getting a whole lot of other things other than maybe some EMF spikes or something.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's what I had whenever I was over there. I remember getting and almost like a temperature change. I remember the temperature change right around the tree and the EMF, like just kind of, it wasn't going off the charts or anything, but it was reacting to something, and it was just intermittent.
It's always something that stuck out to me whenever we went on our trips, because we live in such a technological age that a spike on some of the readings, the fridge, the microwave, something on the other side, the wiring in the wall. So much as how you were the skeptic back in the day, I did try to take everything with a grain of salt because, Boy That Cried Wolf is a story and a parable in and of itself. So we'd go around and we'd be testing, and there was just a weird sincereness when it came to using the heat ray laser and going, it's 89 degrees in this room. It's 67 degrees in that spot. It's 89 degrees in the rest of the room. And then go back and back again, and then back again. And it's still 67, 68, 69, 67. Oh, you know what? I don't want to walk into that room right now. I think I'm going to let it have that room.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And I thought that was kind of a nice thing once we were able to get a couple cameras too, whenever we found places like that where we found some kind of temperature difference, we were able to set something up. Although I don't think we ever got anything on video other than maybe some orbs, which could be attributed to just like dust.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still, yeah, like you said, it's something really strange that's hard to describe to somebody if they haven't been there and kind of experienced it.
So it's funny you bring up the temperature, the point and click thermometer. When I bought that was strictly this is for ghost hunting. So I actually got one practical use out of it. Beyond ghost hunting, there was one night where I had gotten home from work. I was still living at home and still living with mom and dad, and I'd gotten home from work, and I was sitting in my room, and I was like, man, I'm sweating in here. What's going on? And I actually took it and aimed it back, got out of my room, aimed it back into my room, and it was like 87 degrees, and come to find out the AC had gone out. So, dad got up for work that morning, him and mom got up about the same time, and I was like, guys, I've not been to bed yet, and I've got work tomorrow, and there's no AC in the house. And they had that standing unit, the floor unit, you remember? So I had to go, I remember after that I had to go sleep the day in their room where there was air conditioning because it was middle of summer.
So I do think one of the, and I'm going to try to kind of change subjects here, but something that I know, the Dead Children's Playground that was brought up, we had something that happened to us on the way down as well. And I know that this was something for Dave and Jeremy, that this was big, that you guys remembered it, because I didn't even remember it at first. I want to say David brought it up to me a while back, and I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I forgot about that. And then Jeremy, you brought it up on one of the last episodes, or I guess the episode you did with me. Yeah, for Grave Encounters. You guys want to talk about that one at all?
Dave, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking off of what you said earlier, it was one of our largest, most involved trips at the time, getting on the interstate, crossing state lines, going into a different city, a different town, trying to find our way. On the way there, everybody was in their own pocket, had their own feelings. Some people was trying to listen to music. I remember a couple of us were just riding in silence. I think we had walkie-talkies. We were trying to keep tabs with each other going down the road just to make sure that we didn't lose each other, because we was heading out of the nest. We was leaving the valley. And I want to say about halfway there, it was pitch black. We was driving along, and it's clear as day. A green comet just falls out of the sky and just starts to fall into the woods next to us. I'm just sitting here like, wow, that's not what you see every day. Huh. I'm not a man that believes in coincidences. So when certain things line up, whether it be astrological or timeline oriented, where people are just making choices that you don't understand why they're making it, and it falls into certain domino effect. Pay attention to certain things. So that caught my attention real good. Okay, I see we're going somewhere.
Yeah, and I do remember just thinking, because I think we were actually right at the outskirts of Huntsville, and we had been driving next to the woods, and we had just not exited, but like past the woods and got to a clearing, and we saw it on the other side of the tree line, like you were explaining. And it seems like we were both like, did you just see that? And then, we jumped on the radios and hollered at Adam and Gerald, or I think it was Adam, Gerald, and Michael. Did y'all just see that? Yeah.
I don't recall. Sorry. I don't recall either any of the green glow of the comet falling. I don't know what the fuck was I doing in the back seat then. If I don't recall, nobody try to pay attention to stuff on the road.
No, we weren't.
We
didn't do that.
We don't drink when we was doing our investigations. How dare you say blasphemy?
Accusations.
I will say though, I remember whenever we saw it, we were all like, "This is a sign." Like you said, like this isn't a coincidence that we might get something good tonight. It was kind of a bust. If you don't think so, Gerald, tell me about your experience with the Dead Children's Playground. Like what I guess stuck out to you from that particular investigation? Because I know this is one that we were only there for and we typically tried to stay until like 3 a.m. This is one we kind of got forced to leave a little earlier than we would have liked.
I'm gonna say, besides the police, I was like, look, I've been looking for y'all for 30 minutes. Y'all flashing these lights. Y'all know y'all gonna get in trouble if y'all leave right now. So I thought it's nothing really creepy like from the Rich's grave experience. No, what about second? What was that? It's not a counter. You got me with grave encounters now. My second investigation. And it's way big, as big cemetery, and bigger than another one. So we're going across, doing the same thing we normally do, checking for readings, trying to compensate with anything. Now, my big thing I remember is the swings for the kids, and it was literally, I think I might have stayed over there maybe 5 good minutes, 10 minutes to see if the wind was blowing, and we kind of interacted with the swing, make sure it's time to stop it from moving. Not like a full swing, y'all. It's not like someone's like, we up in it, but it was more than just pendulum of going. It swayed just a little bit more, like someone was sitting on it and beginning to rock just a little bit, and then it would stop. Someone seemed like getting on it, swing, and then stop. That was probably my biggest thing I took back from that one, that we couldn't explain it. Because like I said, there was no wind. I want to say it was, did we do that one in the fall? Where it was not cool yet either? What was that investigation? I can't recall.
I remember it being in the fall because it was chillier. Piggybacking off of what you were talking about, that's really the only experience or interaction I remember from going down there was the swings. Because, when we went on these investigations, we did a little bit of research, tried to, understand what would be the common occurrences, what are the known sightings, what are the known interactions, what to look for so we can try and piece our piece into it. That was one of the most common things people reported was the swinging. And the thing that I remember was the swings were swinging with enough force that it was notable. It was at least a good, 8 to 12 inches forward and back. But there was not enough wind to even move the leaf on the ground next to me as we were watching. So if there's not enough wind to move the leaf.
And I was going to say, that's how I kind of remembered it as fall too, because I remember the leaves on the ground like you're saying, and it wasn't like full leaves on the ground. It was like early fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that when we had to crest the hill and lay on the ground and hide from the cop with a spotlight looking for us.
Do you remember when we were actually inside the graveyard and he drove into it? Do you happen to remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that what he caught us?
No.
He caught us when we were sneaking out.
Yes.
See, the weird thing is like when he came out onto that, when he pulled his car out there, like y'all scattered. I was just like, well, we've been seen. And I just keep walking forward. And I think Adam was like, dude, hide somewhere, you idiot. I'm like, and I kind of froze and kind of started moving off the road there. And he just pulled out, backed around and left. There's no way he didn't see us.
All I know is he did not. Like, I remember him coming into where the playground was at, and I remember us laying on the ground hiding, and I remember him going out, and like you said, I remember him coming into the graveyard. But it was as we were leaving. He was waiting on us, like, as we, I want to say, didn't we jump the fence?
Mm-hmm.
And as we were coming out to walk down the sidewalk, that's when he pulled up on us.
Got out of the car and got his whoop-ass gloves on.
I was like, yeah, he put the leather gloves on, didn't he? I remember that. He had gloves on.
I mean, there was 4 of us just walking in a pack down the sidewalk. It would have been tough.
And I remember Michael, I've talked about this on the Grave Encounters episode. I remember Michael had the camera and he we're sitting here like, and during the headlights, like, oh shit, we're in trouble. And Michael just being like, have you seen any strange occurrences here before?
True to character.
And he was like, what did he say? No, I've been patrolling this area for the last 2 years. There's no ghosts. Now, at this point, you can either be charged with trespassing or you can just go home.
We're like, all right, well, we're walking back to the car now. Yeah.
And then, of course, you... Sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, and then, of course, you, after we get back to the cars, you're like, so, who wants to turn around and go back?
Yeah, I'm like, I ain't going to jail. I ain't going to jail tonight. Hey.
Why wouldn't we?
No.
They would never expect the double back.
Exactly. And I remember, like, I want to say Dave was cool with it. Like, Dave, I remember cased it around. Like, he may have drove one lap around. He was like, I think there's another way in.
I had, because I remember one side of it having parallel parking on either side of the street, and it was on an incline. I was like, I can really just parallel park, hide. I'm one of the normals around here. We're just going for a walk. I'm trying to find my dog. I'd be easy. But then G-Man hit us with, I ain't going to jail. I was like, man, why you gotta be so responsible? Why you gotta do me like that?
Man, I'm going to tell you this. I agree with Gerald on this. I'm too pretty for jail.
Hey,
I'm ugly enough to have fun. It'd be all right.
all I remember is I'm like, oh, here we go. I was gonna be like, yes, sir, we'll leave right away, sir. Please, sir. We won't come back. We promise. We're out of state. Please, sir.
Yeah, because we were on like one side of the entrance, and like Dave was saying, there was another side, and that's what he said was people on that side had seen us walking down the sidewalk and called it in. And that's why I was like, I bet if we go to the other side, we'll probably be okay. And my reasoning was we just drove an hour and a half to get here. I ain't trying to leave after just a couple hours.
We didn't even get a couple hours. I think we might have got an hour. We got a full, but we didn't investigate for an hour because we spent about like 15 minutes trying to hide from the damn police.
And that's one thing I'll say too, is like, even if we didn't really get any solid, I guess, evidence for anything while we were at the graveyard, and that's not, I'm not saying that the swing thing didn't happen. That was just a you had to be there. We saw it with our own eyes kind of thing. But it did have a particular type of energy, I guess, that hung over it. Because I remember, like, I had this weird feeling in my head whenever we were walking around the graveyard. And it could have been because the cop was patrolling around too while we were dodging him. And in my head, I'm like, we shouldn't be here. This is stupid. Why are we doing this? But like, it almost had an oppressive push. Like, there's something definitely around. You just got to find it.
I totally get where you're coming from. That was something that I remember grappling with whenever we went on, especially after we went on a few of these excursions, whether it was to local houses. Like, I remember we did Michael's parents' house once, y'all's old uncle's place, going to more industrial, like Hell's Bar. We kind of hit the spread all through it. And one thing I noticed was there was always a different, I guess kids nowadays call it vibe. Like, there's a different energy in the room. I don't remember a very thick, oppressive air in the graveyard. For that, I very much just remember the swings and hiding from the police, because how can you not have that memory? The thing that hung for me was in Hell's Bar Marina, it always felt like we were being watched. There was always someone at the corner. There was always someone at the edge of the doorway. There was always someone down the hallway. There was always someone just.
So one of the things I kind of wondered about, where Adam, you said, excuse me, where you said you had that oppressive kind of feeling in dead children's playground. At the time, you were the only one of us that was a parent. You know, and that in that way, maybe that was, hey, someone's dad's here. Let's tell them what's going on. You know, and I loop that back around to the time I went through Hell's Bar without y'all, the first investigation I did. And at the time, the girl Jason was with, she was pregnant with, you know, their first. And it seemed like while we were in Mary's corner that everything interacted with him, you know? So I kind of wonder if that's one of those things, like if there are spirits out there and they aren't children, can they sense a nurturing parental form nearby?
That's an interesting take on it. You know, that's something I would not have thought of, I guess, looking at it in that manner.
Definitely get behind and agree with, because in my experience, you have to have awareness for there to be interaction. One of the greatest tools that humans have at their disposal to be safe against any of these bump in the night activities of nocturnal entities and creatures, or whatever you want to call them, is denial. It's your bread and butter. If it isn't real, it doesn't affect you. If the monster isn't there, it can't touch you. If it doesn't go bump, it doesn't make you afraid. And in the jungle, if you're not afraid, you're not prey. And if you're not prey, you're not interesting. So looping that back around to what you were saying about being a parent, if he was the only father figure amongst the group, which at the time he was, well...
Actually,
No,
Michael
Michael
was too. Bad.
Oh, well, I guess we can't speak for Mike. He's not part of this conversation. So as the member that's present, you know, you were a father, so you would have been aware of the intimate needs of a child, and vice versa. A child would be able to recognize that in you, and that could have definitely been something that was calling out to you, because that was one of the things that we did our research on and saw, was that it was almost always children in the graveyard. It was almost always wearing the swing set. It was almost as if they were trying to play or, you know, busy themselves while everything else went down around them.
Yeah, same here. And I do want to hop over to what you said and I know we're kind of excluding Gerald on this part because he didn't get to go to Hell's Bar with us. But
I heard the stories.
You have heard the stories, and there's more, I'm sure. But what Dave's saying too, with you had that feeling like something was always just there, just out of sight, maybe just beyond the light of your flashlight. I think the biggest thing that worried me about Hell's Bar is there were so many other ways in, and there are a lot of people around there. And I think that's one of my biggest worries, is like running into a person instead of a ghost. Because like I remember when we did the tunnels, I can't remember if we all took turns or if just a few of us sat down at like the crossroads of the tunnels. And I remember whenever I was sitting down there at the crossroads, it wasn't that it was super scary, like something paranormal, I guess, was watching me. But it was almost like, I don't know, I was worried that because, you know, with everything turned off there, it's dark. You're underground. It's really dark. And if you're sitting there and you're unsure that an actual human could be coming up behind you, it kind of raises those hairs on the back of your neck. And it's a completely different feeling than you get, like where I was saying in Hell's Bar, for instance, or I'm sorry, in the Dead Children's Playground, for instance, where I was saying like I just kind of had that oppressive feeling. I do agree with you. There were definitely areas of Hell's Bar where I got that feeling. And we can talk about that on a few of them if we want, like, you know, number one being the foreman's office. But the tunnels, I guess, I expected a little bit more out of those in Hell's Bar than what I actually felt like I got. I was more worried about running into a person.
If you hold that in one hand, in the other hand, logically, you're down there in the tunnels. A person has mass, and there was gravel on the floor. You would have heard skittering. You would have heard breathing. You yourself, pretty sneaky little fella, able to sneak up and scare probably 80% of the people I know. I don't think I know many people that would be able to sneak up on you and catch you unawares. So for that kind of deep-rooted fear to be on you, that makes me wonder if there wasn't a cause for it, if there wasn't a reason that there was this oppressive fear sitting on you. Because our emotions are real. Our emotions are interpretations of the reality around us. And how we feel we need to interpret and interact with to then survive and be better on the back end. Because it's all about preservation. We're trying to live. So why were you afraid in such a way that you don't think that you were having an interaction? That's what I'm finding interesting.
Yeah, I can explain that too. I remember, Jeremy had done Hell's Bar before us. And during the tour, and even Jeremy talking about it, I'm not sure what Jeremy just signaled on the camera, but there was something where they talked about how people come in there all the time to F with people. They come in there to do things to screw with them. And my biggest worry is, like, if I'm alone in this tunnel and there's 2 or 3 people trying to come in here, I don't know what energy they're bringing. Is it just to mess with me? Is it potentially to try and rob me? Is it to knife me or something because somebody's, hey, this is a random spot where I could kill someone and they would never know. And we were close enough, I should say, that we were going to try and watch over each other. But in those moments, we were also far enough away so as not to contaminate whatever evidence you might get. And so in the back of my head, I guess I have those imaginary scenarios running whenever I'm sitting there in the dark. And it was like and that's another thing, is like I was trying to say, like, my hackles were up for a real person being there. It wasn't like, because there were times, especially like I could talk about being in one of the churches we investigated, a moment of knowing that there was something, like you said, there. The same thing as like being in the foreman's office. It was a different kind of, there's something here coming up, or there's something just out of sight watching me, as opposed to like a real person at any moment could come up and potentially jump me, or worse, like premeditated stories, I guess. Does that make sense?
And I will say, I think that was, because that was my second time there. I think that was the night that there was a party that Hell's Bar was hosting in I can't remember the name of the room, but it was that extra room they had that we got to set up in the first time I took a team in there. And one of the guys who was already drunk approached me and was like, hey, if I slip you like $5, will you take a couple of us through here? And I said, no. He's like, no, how about we slip you like $20 and you take us through here? I said, no. I said, these people know me. They trust me. I said, the guy that does the tours here, he loans me equipment. He trusts me enough. I said, I'm not taking you through there and you get hurt and then they be liable. How about we slip you like $50? I was like, dude, you need to go on. No. And so that's one of the things. I think that might have been what caused it, because I think at the start of that, I was like, now, there was a guy here, he's drunk and he's trying to get someone to take him through, so just be on the lookout for that.
I do remember you talking to that drunk guy. You would. You would.
You follow me, you stay right near me. You want to say, stay with me.
That's just because you need to be faster.
And then Jeremy's gonna give me this look like you give me now, like, he was like,
pushing over the railing.
Gerald's like, if the cop tells me I gotta go. But if a guy's gonna loan me $50 to walk him through somewhere that could,
I'm a god.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end this one here. This one is probably gonna have 2 to 3 parts. I'll upload them within, I would say, a couple days of each other. So if you enjoyed the conversation, you've made it this far, be on the lookout. There will be more to come here in about 2 days, but for right now, we're going to go ahead and close this one out. So thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down there, especially if you've made it this far. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of any uploads that are coming, because they are kind of sporadic. We are hitting more things as we get into October. Look for Silent Hill F. That'll probably be on our live stream page. And there'll be more movies coming up as far as like horror movies. I'm not 100% sure when this one's going to hit. We do have The Possession of Michael Caine, as well as others that are coming out. As always, the signal is weak, but the stories are strong. Take care.